Architecture, distributed sovereignty, from the imperial chancery to Yale's institutional intelligence. The hardest thing in information architecture is to name things. My name is Franz Joseph Hartl II. I'm a mid-level IT professional where I lead a team of digital plumbers. I am of the practice. The Drupal community has gathered here in Vienna, and this feels more than coincidence. This city was built through marriage, not conquest. For centuries, it served as the administrative heart of the Holy Roman Empire, where the imperial chancery coordinated hundreds of autonomous territories without commanding them. The University of Bologna, the first university, was chartered by Frederick Barbarossa in 1158. The Holy Roman Empire helped formalize early universities, embedding them in a system of distributed governance. These institutions operated within distributed sovereignty, autonomous guilds of scholars, coordinating without consolidating, maintaining local authority while contributing to something larger. That model formally dissolved in 1806 when the Holy Roman Empire ended, but universities never abandoned it. Yale was founded in 1701 and still operates on principles established here, principles that survived in universities even after the empire fell. For 25 years, the Drupal community has been building digital infrastructure for the community. It started in Europe with a Belgian student creating tools for his university community. I was part of a cadre of Americans that leveraged Drupal to transform politics with the Howard Dean campaign, followed by civic space layouts to spread this model beyond one election. We didn't know it then, but we were rediscovering the organizing principles of the Holy Roman Empire. Universities have chosen Drupal. 80% of the world's top 100 universities, all 8 Ivy League institutions, perhaps because something in the architecture resonates. Like looking in a mirror and recognizing a form they long ago remembered but couldn't name. At Yale, we've been learning how to make this tradition operational in digital infrastructure. We've been coding principles that trace back to the Holy Roman Empire into platform architecture, design systems, content modeling, and now institutional intelligence. Standing here in Vienna, where my namesake held multiple crowns, where the imperial chancery tried to solve problems we're still solving, I'm here to say, this tradition works, we have proof, and we want to share it with you. This isn't just innovation. This is tradition made operational. Universities are not corporations. Universities confuse themselves. They hire consultants to become more complex, adopting business organizational models and private sector governance structures. This is a category error. Universities are not corporations. They are not modern bureaucracies. They are institutions that retain governance principles from a much older model, one that most of the world abandoned centuries ago. Like the Holy Roman Empire, power in universities is distributed and constantly shifting. At Yale, authority moves between students, alumni, faculty, and administrators. Different schools have different governance. The relationship between central administration and individual departments is perpetually negotiated. Power is never fully centralized. This is a feature, not a bug. The Holy Roman Empire operated for roughly 1,000 years on a principle that became known as subsidiarity. Decisions should be made at the lowest component level of authority. Higher levels support lower levels, not replace them. Central authority provides framework and coordination. Local authorities handles implementation and adaptation. Similar logic appears in the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It's written into the treaties of the European Union, and it's precisely what universities need but struggle to implement. Here's the problem in its starkest form. Knowledge must be maintained by those who have expertise. The facilities department knows the physical campus. Finance knows procurement. The university printer knows our graphic identities. Those closest to the work best understand the nuances of the work. But the knowledge must also be accessible across boundaries. Students need to navigate between schools. Researchers need to coordinate across departments. Staff help with all of that. How do you help people navigate? Do you centralize knowledge production, make it cohesive and accessible, but flattened and often bad? Or do you leave it distributed, creating obscurity and incoherencies? The Imperium faced the same problems on a continental scale and never fully solved it, epitomized by Kaiser Franz Joseph at his desk writing countless letters and receiving countless constituencies in all the languages of Vienna. Such heroics are not sustainable. For centuries, universities have lived in this tension, swinging back between centralization efforts and decentralization efforts. We centralize the communication staff so we could keep everyone on message. Then we place them with the units so they could be close to the work and tell a better story. Back and forth. When power is distributed, when no single authority controls everything, you need an institution that could coordinate without commanding. That institution is the Chancery. In the Holy Roman Empire, the imperial chancery in Vienna was the administrative mind. Not the will. The emperor embodied the will of the peoples. The chancery was the memory, the language, the system of record. It issued official documents, maintained registries, established conventions, authenticated claims, and coordinated communication across hundreds of autonomous territories. The pattern survived. Delaware still has a court of chancery. Universities call their chief officers chancellors, guardians of institutional coherence without operational control. The Catholic Church maintains chanceries in every diocese as the administrative apparatus enabling global coordination. The chancery is the mind of the distributed sovereignty. For centuries, the imperial chancery grappled with an information architecture challenge. How do you enable coordination across autonomous territories without destroying their autonomy? They developed early solutions. Document conventions. Common practice for imperial documents became coordinations because impossible if every territory were to write things differently. Document conventions, common practices for administrative language. Recurring formulations that created shared vocabulary for what authorities could claim. There was authentication practices, ways to verify documents and maintain their authority as they moved through territories. There were heraldic conventions, rules ensuring coats of arms remained distinct and recognizable. No metal on metal, no color on color. Within these constraints, infinite unique designs became possible. Yale has 31 coats of arms, each distinct, each following heraldic laws, each recognizable to be part of the system. This was early information architecture, standardized rules enabling distributed expression. I was talking with Steve yesterday about like the heraldic elements that we still maintain. We'll show it a little bit later, but like heraldry was actually like the first form of accessibility, not just branding. Like, because if you had like, there's no metal on metal because it became hard to distinguish. And if like you were on a battlefield and you were kind of coordinating all these armies, I needed to know exactly like who you were at a distance. And so you had to have these conventions and you had to have these rules that we had that had to be enabled. So you could be from a territory I've never heard of from across the continent, but you're instantly recognizable because I understood your heraldry. When the Chancery wrestled with how to enable coordination without destroying local authority, it required shared semantic structure, local content, central grammar, diverse expression, common vocabulary. This approach hit fundamental infrastructure limits. Knowledge couldn't flow fast enough. A herald traveled at horse speed. Information was outdated before it arrived. Validation couldn't be maintained. The seal proved authenticity, but not currency. Queries couldn't span boundaries. Questions querying multiple territories meant sending multiple messengers and synthesizing responses yourself. Context couldn't be preserved at scale. When information crossed too many boundaries, understanding of which authority governed what broke down. A herald could travel to verify rights and resolve disputes, but a herald couldn't be everywhere at once. This was the infrastructure limit. The principle was sound, distributed authority with shared frameworks, but parchment, seals, and heralds on horsebacks couldn't make it at a civilizational scale. The printing press accelerated pressures that ultimately broke the model. Luther's 95 Theses spread across Europe in weeks. The 30 Years' War killed a third of Europe's population in some regions. Westphalia's answer in 1648? Consolidate sovereignty within borders. Napoleon completed this in 1806, dissolving the Roman Empire and replacing it with the bureaucratic state. Centralized authority, rational administration, top-down command. It worked for 2 centuries, but it destroyed what the Holy Roman Empire maintained. Multiple identities held simultaneously. Multiple jurisdictions, multiple memberships, all legitimate, coordinated, without consolidation. And now that model is failing. We're living what through scholars call the polycrisis, multiple interconnected crises that reinforce each other. Climate change doesn't respect borders. Pandemics ignore sovereignty. Supply chains span continents. Financial systems are globally interdependent. You are simultaneously a resident of your city, a citizen of your region, nation, a member of supranational national organizations. Each identity is real. Each authority is legitimate. These aren't competing, they're simultaneous, overlapping, interdependent. Universities face this internally. You're a member of your department and your school and your institution, and your discipline knowledge is inherently interdisciplinary. Authority must be distributed, but coordination is essential. We have institutions, the EU, the UN, regional organizations. We have treaties and frameworks. What we lack is infrastructure that makes overlapping authorities actually work. Westphalian thinking says, choose one, consolidate authority, but that destroys the multiplicity that these challenges require. We need infrastructure that enables coordination without requiring consolidation. Infrastructure that preserves distributed authority while making knowledge collectively accessible. Infrastructure that lets you be many things at once. This is not nostalgia. This is the recognition that we now have what the Holy Roman Empire lacked. Digital infrastructure that can finally make genuine multiplicity operational. Universities kept this problem alive. For 200 years after the Holy Roman Empire dissolved, universities struggled with outdated policy documents, work in silos, shadow IT, centralized tools that didn't mesh with distributed architecture. Consultants told us to centralize, technology vendors offered platforms built for hierarchies, but we have Drupal. Let's talk about subsidiarity in practice. We built this infrastructure. Universities keeping this alive for 200 years, but without infrastructure, they struggle too. Knowledge maintained by experts, but inaccessible across boundaries. For 25 years, but the Drupal community has built that infrastructure. For 25 years, we thought we were solving website problems. We were building what the Holy Roman Empire couldn't operationalize. 3 breakthroughs make it work. Separate databases preserve governance boundaries. Same code base, different databases. Chemistry's taxonomies reflect their structure. Math's content model serves their needs. Each governance is encoded in the content. When you add AI, this becomes critical. Each chatbot herald serves its own domain because that's each site's database is distinct. CI/CD enables continuous improvement without decay. For decades, universities launch sites and watch them decay. The platform model reverses this. We maintain infrastructure, we deploy updates, site improves continuously without intervention. The GitHub Action stuff that Pantheon is doing, that Yale has kind of been doing for 2 years now, it's really important. We'll go over that, but this idea of continuous improvement is a big unlock. We put protocol in code, and that's creating network effects. Content modeling rests on shared standards, well-governed contribution, processes allow innovation to flow back to the commons. More sites means more contributors, means a more refined protocol, meaning greater adoption. Self-improving infrastructure. We're getting a flywheel effect, everyone. This is how subsidiarity becomes economically viable at scale. But this architecture demands governance. You can't run Drupal with Westphalian top-down management. It breaks. the contributed model ecosystem, core contrib boundary debates, the BDFL, maintaining frameworks, not features, these aren't optional. They're necessary for the technical architecture to function. The Drupal Association and its governance structures aren't bureaucratic overhead. They're the institutional expression of what code requires. Coordinated decision-making across distributed authority. Protocol encoded in code demands protocol and how we organize. Core provides the framework, content entities, field taxonomies, rendering systems, extension, APIs, contrib, provides common solutions, special use cases, domain expertise, innovation serving particular needs. The principle is clear. Core handles what no single site can do alone. Shared infrastructure, common vocabulary, extension points. Contrib handles what's best solved close to the problem. This is subsidiarity operationalized in technical architecture. Okay, that got, all right, got a little academic there, all right? Okay, so first of all, subsidiarity is a real thing that people are still talking about. Here is an honest-to-God Habsburg on Twitter talking like last month about this, looking at a picture of the Holy Roman Empire, saying what made this a response to globalism, why should we look to it? And he's saying the same thing, subsidiarity. I've been talking about, let me go over here. This is here. Thank God this internet's great here. I've been talking about chanceries, and I had a problem about like a document library, and this is the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, and earlier, the last vision, we had the chancery right up there. And so we're actually like, this is at Yale, so it's off the public records, you know, so we're actively kind of thinking about this. I want to make sure that you also kind of, it's outside of the scope of this. This is like a kind of a level intro into here, but you know, we have all this code. This code exists. This is our YaleSites project. The university has invested millions of dollars in this infrastructure, and we're here to disseminate knowledge. I'm not going to talk about it all here, but it's all here. You can see how we're doing it here, and our repository architecture, and you could probably even go ahead and set it up. We have good notes to set it up on your local, right? Because that's how we want to do things. There's also in that, we got our AI engine stuff is in there too. I want to show you kind of an example of, so this is one of the, on the platform, you know, so you can see how it's very pretty. But this is YaleSites platform. This is how we're encoding everything. Everything has the same kind of code base, but everybody gets a different database that we're pushing all the changes out through CI/CD, and so everybody kind of gets up to date. So you get something like this, and then you get a whole different look here with like kind of the Divinity School. So it's a little bit of a different vibe, you know, here, but we're really kind of. But it's still of the same family, you know? And, you know, sometimes you have, but the sacred music needs their own, even though they're part of Divinity, having the Institute of Sacred Music kind of jam all their stuff into that website, that's not going to work. So they could have stuff, and they could kind of really promote their kind of recordings and their video performances. I'm really kind of, you know, we gave everybody the tools, and people are really running with it and putting a lot of great content. There's a lot of great resources at Yale that we're trying to share with the world, and you know, we're trying to make our digital campus commensurate with our kind of physical plant. And you could also see like stuff like the Porvu Center. You know, doesn't this look like Vienna, right? Like kind of come and running into all this over there. But this is the Center for Teaching and Learning. They have a really good menu structure that they worked with iFactory on, and like kind of this is what they're helping. But they need their own thing, right? They're doing their own thing on campus, right? And this is YaleSites, right? This is what we do here, and this is where we're keeping. And this is another good thing to look at if you want to learn more in depth about everything we're doing. We have like a lot of videos. You can see our resources. You can see kind of. We have like online trainings because we're building. You know, we're promoting the idea of self-service. And, you know, but one of the things is like, oh yeah, you're talking about like the kind of continuous integration. What does that actually mean, and what does that do? It means that we have release notes, that we're actually kind of continuously improving, right? It's like the web for us, the website redesign is a thing of the past. Everybody kind of gets new things and new features, and we realized that we didn't have title cards. We realized we didn't have a component for facts and figures. We realized we didn't have one for link grids. So we kind of worked with people and we made them, right? And sometimes like we have to like, we realize that we really need something for publications at a university. So somebody came in and said, look, I would love to be on the platform, but you don't have this. Can we build it? And they partnered with Square 360 and we maintained the up code base, and they were able to kind of contribute that back to the platform. And then we're able to kind of push that stuff out, right? Subsidiarity thinking in practice. The people like a contrib, the people who are local, making decisions, making choices, but there's some stuff that we want to bring out to back up to core because we want to push it back to the entire community. So we get all these features in there. And this is all made possible by the infrastructure that this community has built over the past 25 years. This one we did with kind of 4 kitchens, where we needed to have much better layouts. We needed to figure out to have like kind of the book module. We're not calling it the book module, we're calling it content collections, but we needed kind of like mini sites within larger sites within there. So we worked with them and became there. We also realized that we needed more layouts, we needed more columns. It was just too much top down. So we realized all this, we worked on it not in abstract, but on specific problems, because that makes some of the best stuff. And then we were able to kind of really pull that stuff back into the system, right? So and then we did the same thing with the Center for Teaching and Learning, like iFactory kind of did, and we realize that our views weren't powerful enough and we need more taxonomies, right? All of this is kind of working because we're able to do this, and we're able to keep everything standard because we do have that protocol, and we do have the standards. Look, like this is our storybook, right? We're going in here, we have everything available here, and this is stuff that's available this approach means that you don't just have to be Drupal, you could be anybody, there could be other people and pull that design system in or use that design system thinking. Because you don't want your kind of outside viewers and visitors shouldn't know what's in the back, right? You don't need to know how we're operating, what technology is what. We need to be providing a unified experience that allows for kind of individual expression. Design systems, especially atomic-based ones, do that really well. Okay, so let's talk about this. So let's see this right here. So we'll talk a little bit about how we can see this in action, right? So we do this. So we do subsidiary thinking with the blocks and things, everything like that. I know everybody's like kind of really excited about Canvas, but we've been pushing Layout Builder, and we were a little influential in the Canvas community, to be completely honest. Mike Tulo and April T-Day from my team have really kind of pushed and understood the idea of authoring experiences. So like we have a system where we're kind of able to just kind of move things all around, and have it. But let's say I have this working with vendors system, and I need to I don't like this blue, right? So I'm going to kind of I want to change the whole blue of this section. Actually, you know what? I want this image on the right, and it's too big, and I don't want it to have any color, right? So I go there, and oh no.
Shift Command D.
Shift Command
D.
D?
No. It works on my machine.
It works on your machine. This is why we don't do live demos, right? All right, I know what we can do. All right. Save layout. This is start with changes. All right, let's go again. And we're gonna move this. Don't work with live technology. With technology or live animals at the same time, right? All right, so oh my God, now I'm getting nervous. All right, let me do this. And move pages. I had such good momentum. Okay, we're gonna go back down to. We'll where the error was last time. We'll do it, right? All right, we're going to configure this, right? So we went over here and we said, ooh. We said image right, medium, theme style, no color. All right, and we're going to update them. And there we go, right? We switched it all out, we switched it, we changed, we moved everything around. All right, so, and I think I chose this block with working with vendors here, and this block here, is because really this, and this is for the institutions, don't try to build everything in-house. If you're practicing the idea of subsidiarity, recognize that you have to partner with other organizations. You're not trying to build your own empire within the institution, right? We have to have a self-service model that pushes everything out, and then we have to collaborate with vendor partners. So it's very important for us to do that. But also, vendors, recognize when you're dealing with Yale, you're not dealing with like a top-down organization. There's not just one Yale. Every department's a little bit independent, they do things their own way, they have their own budgets, but we try to kind of get them to follow kind of the unified standards of systems. All right. So, okay. This is the AI engine stuff, right? So this is probably kind of what you're here for. This is other things that we've turned in, and what we did here is said, hey, you know, RAG is kind of important, and AI really is about context engineering. It's about, you know, information architecture is a lot about getting the right information to the right people at the right time. We're doing the same thing with AI. You're getting the right, so how do we start optimizing getting the right information to the context in the context window? And we're spending a lot of time doing that work. You can follow it along here. But we have this is not, AI is not just like, last time a couple of years ago, in Portland, we demoed some stuff we were doing with hospitality, and it's like, oh, this is like theoretical. We're in production. So this is a production level site. We have a chatbot here that you can kind of go in and ask questions about your member benefits, and it will kind of go in and answer that. So Yale is comfortable enough with AI that we're answering people's questions about health and what they're permitted to have with AI, because we're confident enough about the engine that we have with Drupal and the content that we have. You know, and then we all have, again, going back to this idea that all it needs to be a little bit independent, right? Here's the registrar. Reggie, they have their own registrar, right? And then, you know, you have kind of Blueprint, and that has its own thing. Like, oh no, the printer is jammed in the library. Sterling. And so you could give it, so everybody also has to have, you know, the same construct, but they have different personalities. So this is going to say, it's going to have a little joke at the end, you know? So remember, printers can be like paper detectives. They're always finding the culprit causing the jam. You know, so it's got a little different vibe. If you try to consolidate everything and have one voice of Yale, come on, that's not what you want. But sometimes you do something that's really, this is the big one for us, and as an institution, is navigating the policies and procedures of the university, right? Like, and this is used actively by scores of people every day in the university. This is not publicly facing. Scores are not a lot, but it's the people who are paying attention and using it that's very important. So I want to host Drupal event at Yale. What do I need to think about? This kind of this is indexed to all the policies and procedures in the university to help people answer the hardest questions that they face, that they're there. So it's going to kind of go in, and it's pulling all the different citations that we have to help understand things, right, across our databases, a curated list of databases. That we also kind of, I don't have time to include we also include metadata in a content type closer to the content type that allows us to kind of give insight and context in there. But you also, this is multi-shot. How can I pay for it? This is multi-shot. And so you can kind of go in and it remembers the context of everything that it remembers what you're going to do. And it also can tell you the policies and the procedures. And it gives you links to forms. It's great. It's really useful, and we do a lot of. I would talk to you about follow up, and we can talk a lot about the QA of processes that we have there. But let's go back to the prepared remarks. Okay. For 25 years, the Drupal community has been building something remarkable. Module maintainers maintaining code that solves specific problems. Core maintainers stewarding the framework and reviewing contrib. The Drupal Association maintaining infrastructure and coordinating releases. Contrib authors building solutions for particular needs. Companies employing developers and funding features. A distributed network of people working on their own projects while building something larger together. We thought we were building a CMS. We thought we were solving web publishing problems. We were building the preconditions for something else entirely. The architecture we created, separate databases, shared protocols, distributed authority, turned out to be exactly what you need when intelligence becomes generative. Not one AI that knows everything, a distributed network of specialized agents, each tied to a domain, each drawing from human curated knowledge, all operating on shared infrastructure. We have built the digital chancery. The imperial chancery needed heralds who could be everywhere at once, who could navigate distributed knowledge while preserving local authority. Language models change everything, but only if you build the structure first. It works because Drupal provides structured content, semantic relationships, and clear boundaries of authority. At Yale, each domain has its own chatbot, retrieving from its own database. Finance maintains financial policies. The chatbot makes the policy conversational accessible. It's in production, and it's working. Y'all are plumbers. For 25 years, we've been told that Drupal is too complicated, that we were wrong about what we're building, but you were building community plumbing. The community has been operating on subsidiarity for decades. You maintain your module, you serve your clients, you control your work, but you contribute to something larger. Core versus contrib isn't a bug, it's subsidiarity operationalized. Core maintains what no single site can do alone, the framework, the APIs, the extension points. Contrib solves what's best handled close to the problem, specific use cases and domain expertise, particular needs. You contribute a patch, you maintain a module, you sponsor development, your work stays yours, but it serves the commons. This is how Drupal relates to Symfony, to PHP, to the web itself. Distinct projects, different governance, each maintaining its authority, but united in making something larger possible. Franz Joseph had a motto, Verbis Unitas, with united forces. Not e pluribus unum, out of many one, not consolidation, not the melting pot. Verbis Unitas, the many remain many. Each stays distinct, but they work together. You are simultaneously many things, members of your institution and the Drupal community, and citizens of your country, and the open web. E pluribus unum says choose one. Verbis Unitas says remain distinct, unite the forces. We need communities that actually function. We need infrastructure for the commons. The algorithm isolates, the feed silos, the platform extracts. Drupal connects, Drupal enables, Drupal serves the commons. That was the vision. That was what the Imperial Chancery tried to operationalize. That was what failed because the infrastructure couldn't support it. You built that infrastructure. Standing here in Vienna with the name Franz Joseph II, I could tell you what you built. The pipes that make community at scale possible. Come for the code, stay for the community. Verbis Unitas, we build for centuries. Thank you. All right, I have no idea where the questions are going to go.
First of all, thank you so much. That was very inspiring. My question is around AI modules. So I know you've been one of the earliest of the early birds of AI adoption. So you probably didn't have a chance to actually use the AI modules just yet.
Yeah.
Did you actually add them later into your stack?
No, we haven't. We're paying attention. Dave Blankenship from my team. So Dave Blankenship, Alan Scrimenti, and Vincent Massaro are engineers on my team. They're paying attention to what's going on. We want to go back into the core. We're not actively developing much on our own stuff anymore outside of a lot of the embedding and understanding that. We want to go look for it. Like, I don't want that to be a modal that pops out. We want to have it in there. I think that there's also a lot of really exciting stuff with the AI module for kind of condensing and providing like semantic and metadata architecture around things. So like everything is about like navigation and having that metadata. And like sometimes you shouldn't do live demos. Like you shouldn't necessarily ask everything with all these questions on the fly to AI. If you could know what those questions are there, and then maybe, or the subject matter, and then maybe kind of pre-render some kind of descriptions or topic areas, or doing advanced taxonomy. So we're very, very excited to kind of fold back and get back into the fold, because it's, again, subsidiarity in practice. Like that stuff, that should be with the community, and we want to contribute to ideas. We don't want to be on our own island doing our own thing. So not yet, but also I'm learning a little bit in Vienna. I'm gonna get that Vienna vibe over there. It's like, yeah, we'll take our time. We're eventually gonna get there. No rush. We'll do it when we're ready. Right? Wasn't that the old release motto of Drupal? When's it coming out? When it's ready.
So I don't have a question, I'm just really impressed. I work at an institution in Europe at the University of Edinburgh, and lot of food for thought there. So I don't really have a question, but could you talk a little bit, I gave a talk the other day that talked about, for a large organisation, we rely a lot on guardrails. When you've got a central platform, you've got guardrails for accessibility.
Yeah.
I'm increasingly seeing sustainability, that the University of Edinburgh did an update recently with guardrails for sustainability. So could you talk a little bit about the actual realities of guardrails and how you govern across a wide web estate?
Yes. So, okay. So, all right. So going back to all right. Poetry and music are individual expressions that rely on certain conventions, right? That's what made one part of the whole thesis is that centralized rules don't like kind of push out everything like that. All right, bracket that. Think about that. The university made a huge commitment to accessibility and said, look, Yale has to be accessible to all these different everyone, right? Especially digitally. We don't want to create barriers for people with differing abilities. Right? Not that we're not elitist, but in this case, we're gonna make sure that everybody can visit our websites. And in order to do that, what ends up happening is that like you have to have it for a screen reader, right? That means your semantic markup has to be incredible, right? That's really going to come on. You're not just doing H3s because it looks pretty. Your H3 actually has to mean something there. And then we layered on over like kind of the differing tokens so you could kind of switch things out. So we could kind of what we could do here is I was showing you kind of, hey, like we just, you know, I dare again to go into this thing, but hey, how do we ensure that something's really kind of accessible and allow variation? And so what we did is we said, okay, you could have your own color palette, right? So, so let's go into the theme setting here, and we're gonna book all the colors that you have here, and you can kind of select your own colors, and you can kind of change the whole theme that you want to have there. So what we do is we kind of embed those rules in code that allow you to kind of change things the way that you see kind of fit, and it all stems back to kind of ensuring that we had all these accessibility rules that you have there. The other thing is that because we maintain all the kind of key code, right, we're able to centrally maintain those standards. So that's really what you want what you're kind of going for, is you're like saying, how could I kind of do this without doing that? And in case if you don't like, I'm serious about the heraldry stuff. This is our guide to different things. We do have the rule. You could come in and read the rules of heraldry over here. We take that really seriously. We have a whole bunch of things. I'm lucky to work with a whole, like, next to a web accessibility team that's kind of really put out there. They would love to have conversations with you and sharing that. Another thing is that, like, the idea of living in a community, a Drupal community, and other people doing other things. I want to editorially. Oh, look at that. Princeton has the editorially project that we have kind of embedded into it, and so we distribute that. We give everybody access to site improve to help with both content quality and to kind of help this. So what we're doing is that we have, like, so some of the major accessibility errors you're never going to be able to make because we're doing in code, along with you're never going to be able to make really kind of brand errors because we cover all that. And then we push out, like, all these different tools for your individual content to make sure that you're kind of handling that properly.
Another question around AI, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So how do you do quality assurance? So on like a system level to make sure that the systems that you're building actually work well, but then also on the individual, completely unpredictable prompt level?
So okay. So that's a great question. So when we did Yale Health, and I'll propose a talk just on this one topic because I cut it from this because it's there. We have a system where we were doing it and we were going through, and you cannot completely automate it completely. Because, again, subsidiarity means the people who are closest to the level have to do this. So when we were doing this with Yale Health, we had two big things. We had the big lever of the system instructions, right, that serves as a constitution for the bot, explains the overarching rules and everything. And then you have the pieces of individual content, right, that you could go with metadata. And then what you do, you need to kind of verify the quality of it. And you have to have the people who, like, you have to have people from the pharmacy ask, what questions are you getting asked? Where is the danger? We have to get that. we provide what the chatbot answers, and then we go into them and then we look and say, can you approve this? Does this work? You have to kind of iterate and go through that process a lot, and you have to maintain it. So it's again, AI is not replacing everyone, right? It's a different way of organizing. But for quality assurance and for these things to work, you need to keep the human in the loop on the content, because they're the one that is closest to the work. And then you also have to create systems for kind of user acceptance. You have to do like kind of user acceptance testing from the members of the community, because they're the only ones who could kind of see it. And we're not throwing a chatbot everywhere, right? We go through it took us about 9 months of QA to do it. The tech is actually pretty simple, but making sure that you have your content and your words dialed in is the same thing. Same thing and that's the same thing when you adopt the sites model, like Harvard has adopted it, Stanford has adopted it, Princeton has adopted this upstream sites model, right? When you adopt a model like that, you see the problems of content don't go away, right? People still need to understand their own organization. They go there, so luckily they can no longer blame me for the technology not working, but the content issues are still there.
All right, I think we're on time, so we need a deeper group for the next scene.
Yeah.
So thank you, Franz, Joseph, the second.
You're welcome.